Okay, so this is the April producer office hours with the quickly retiring Patrick Blake. And Pat, he's going to come back. Pat is an off-Broadway producer, and he's the artistic director of Rhymes Over Beats, a hip hop theater company. He's been in the game for a very long time. He's also produced some Broadway, but mainly he's an off-Broadway guy. And I fell in love with off-Broadway, and so Patrick and I had a lot to talk about. And so we started working together, and it's been great. So that was my introduction of you.
Oh, okay.
So if you want to know about off-Broadway, Pat's got a lot of experience. And so we're just going to hang out and have an unfiltered talk, which is really what we do here.
Yeah. When I started doing the producing thing, which is almost 30 years ago now, there was commercial off-Broadway and not-for-profit off-Broadway. But commercial off-Broadway was still viable. And it's not that much anymore.
Yeah. Peter Breger says there's like zero commercial off-Broadway right now. Everything is virtually nonprofit.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you need to get a show with the show that I did, which is kind of like my baptism of fire, was made money, which was extremely unusual, and still is then. And the reason that we made money is that we had A-list movie stars working for scale at 2-week or week increments, and they changed. And so we would sell out every day, and we made money because it was the exonerated. Yeah, and we made money because we sold out every day. But unless you do that, and in a 300-seat theater, or 299 to be exact.
That was the Vanessa Redgrave?
Yes.
So I want you guys to introduce yourself to Pat. Pat already knows David Gutierrez, but I think Kim and Alan are new. And Alan, Patrick is in the Bay Area.
Oh.
So was that Alan. So why don't you guys just fill him in very briefly. Alan's got a reading in the New Works Festival.
Okay.
Which is really exciting. Kim has been produced like all over Minneapolis at this point, and Wisconsin, which is really exciting as well. And David is in Houston, and he's got a few shows that's been in the New Works Festival. So, Alan, why don't you start?
Oh, I'm in Oakland. I'm an emerging playwright. And as Kate mentioned, I have one play that's going to be read in her festival, and also almost simultaneously an adaptation of White Fang that I'll be having workshopped as well when I'm out there, which is exciting. A little daunting to try to do two at once, but it's fun, and I'm always up to a challenge. And I was involved, Patrick, with the Magic Theater for a bit out in San Francisco.
Yep.
And certainly know a lot of the players in the Bay Area, or maybe the players who played, and now there's a whole new crop of people coming up. I'm sure you're aware, but lovely to meet you, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I moved here. I lived in New York, but I moved here right at the start of the pandemic, so I wasn't able to get out and meet people. But now that things have calmed down a little bit, I'm going to try and get out more than and see things. I mean, other than stuff at Berkeley Rep,
which I have tickets to tonight. But anyway.
Oh, really? What are they doing, Alan?
They're doing Blueberries from the Cloud Tectonics. They did it at New York Theater Workshop, and it's half show will travel.
Yeah.
Was that the Moises Kaufman co-wrote or co-developed?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good piece. I saw it when I was in New York, but you know, it's nice to support local theater.
Talking about local theater, Kim, the great segue.
Hi, Patrick. Kim Rule. I'm based in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, and I have been on a call with you once or twice
Okay.
before, either with True or with Kate. I'm not sure, but I know I've heard you speak before. Kate mentioned that I was produced in Minneapolis. Actually, I've never had a play produced in Minnesota, but in about a dozen states. A lot in Wisconsin because I'm from Wisconsin. But yeah, I'm going down to Texas for Tennessee Wet Rub in June. And yeah, I do have some questions for you. This year, I've got five of my plays being published and licensed, and I've got one that I think is a good candidate for off Broadway. But and I have a and it's had a couple good productions, but here in Wisconsin, and I know one of my publishers will publish it if I want him to, but I think it would not serve going to off Broadway well, and maybe I should just not even consider going to off Broadway. I don't know. So I'd like to talk to you about that when we get a chance.
Okay.
Well, like tonight, when you're looking at each other.
Right.
David,
No, David, I've met you
Hi
before.
there.
How you doing?
We
Yeah,
had legal conversations, if I remember.
yeah, that's right. That's right. So yeah, you know, I wrote Retraction, which was produced at Kate's Off Broadway Festival in 2022, which got great reviews, great reception, just a great got a great response from everybody. And then at the 2024 Reading Festival, my basketball play, I guess you'd say, Awaken Breathing, got you know, had a reading. We had you know, and a Broadway assistant director was the director of it, and we had 3 touring actors on it, 2 Broadway touring actors and another touring actor. So we assembled some really good talent, and that reading went very well. We got some good constructive criticism, but we also got quite a bit of praise. And of course, I'm still it's still being developed. You know, some revisions being made to that. Kate is helping me develop my first screenplay, believe it or not. And then other project, I don't know, Kate, if you want to talk too much about our big project in development, maybe we should keep it under wraps right now. Or...
no, I think that this is a great guy to talk to.
Okay.
So, yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, I'm keeping busy. You know, getting Retraction, trying to do things with that. Doing some rewrites and revisions to Awaken Breathing, the basketball play, and doing rewrites of my first screenplay. So I'm keeping busy.
Okay, so questions for Pat. I
Well,
think one of the best, go ahead, you go first, Kim.
Yeah, I don't have to go first, but I do have a question. I need some guidance. I need some guidance. I have 10 full-length plays. 8 of them have been either won awards and or had multiple productions. So getting good traction with my work. One of them is a 2-hander. It's a very intimate play. It has nudity in it. Kate's very familiar with the play. We had a development production here in Wisconsin, and then another one in Milwaukee. I think it plays really well, and I think it has a chance for regional theater, you know, and commercial theaters that want to do edgier work. But I'm a playwright. I want to be paid. I don't want to put money into a project. I'm not going to go out and raise money or put money into my work. I would hope to get paid for it. But if somebody believes enough in the work to want to take it to off Broadway, that's great. But I don't know if I should hold out for that or just go ahead and get it published. Since it's had a couple good productions, one of my publishers will publish it, license it, and then I can shop it to smaller, you know, commercial theaters that want to do that kind of work. And maybe that's the way a more productive approach. So any guidance you have about that would be helpful.
The commercially, with 2 characters, it's a really good commercial property because you're not going to have to spend a lot of money. Is it unit set or do you have multiple?
Unit set.
So that's the sort of thing that could be done off Broadway. the thing that licensing affects is when you're negotiating with the producer, they're going to ask for the right to do the play in a specific time period in a specific location. If it's licensed, that usually is done through the licensing company rather than you. So that you,
Right. The publisher.
yeah,
Yeah.
you- putting them to work is a good idea and see what they can come up with. I mean, that's what I would do first, rather than trying to do it myself. I would say, okay, you have the license, see what you can do.
They're not.
Okay. I think my publisher is not an agent, you know, they're not, they're not, I mean, they're
But-
promoting, they've got a lot of their stuff in the drama bookshop and he's aggressively marketing his scripts and his stable of writers, but I don't think he's going out to theaters to try to sell stuff to
No,
people.
but doing like catalogs of work that's available, and maybe he could recommend somebody that he thinks from his experience is really interested in this particular type of play.
Okay.
Okay. But yeah, marketing yourself as a playwright is hard. It's just basically meeting people.
Yeah.
And what Kate is doing is an excellent idea, I think, about getting people from around the country together and letting them talk to each other and see what's available.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess I'm just confused because I was under the impression that if a publisher had the script and licensing, they're going to get their royalties off the top. I mean, and that reduces what an off-Broadway producer who's going to it for a premiere before publishing and licensing, they would actually have that first chunk. Or maybe I'm just not understanding it.
It depends on the contract. You can have somebody license and say, you only get rights outside of New York City. So then if something happens in New York City, they wouldn't get anything from it.
Okay. I could see if my publisher would be open to that.
I mean, everything's negotiable when it comes to that. You could say, I've got a really good connection in New York City to where it will be done, and so I want to exempt New York City from it. And
Okay.
and see if that works.
Okay.
I
Kate,
mean,
do you have any thoughts on that? Sorry.
No, I
Go
was
ahead.
going to say the show that Kate and I are in the process of producing now, the following season, which is a hip hop musical.
Yeah.
We have the rights to New York City and the English speaking world and Europe.
Okay.
But we don't have Asia. So if the writer wanted to make a deal, and that's extremely beneficial or on our side, because usually it's English speaking world.
Yeah.
If you're making a deal for New York, you're making a deal for the English speaking world, because the producer won't do a script just for New York. They would want the English speaking world, which is basically Canada and England,
Okay.
Australia, but Australia.
I was trying to put a big push that anything that premiered in South Africa, they would like finance it to go to London and things like that,
yeah.
as long as you had your premiere in South Africa. I don't know if they're still doing that. That was closer to 2 years ago.
Is the play, does it have characters that would appeal to a famous person? I mean,
For Maeve's Camellia? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
one of the shows that I was an investor in it, that a friend produced, and she brought me on board with it, was done in Chicago, and she wanted to bring it to New York, and was not having much success. But one of the people that she pitched it to was this person, a fellow producer, who said, "Oh, I'm really good friends with Daniel Craig, and he's looking for something that he can do on Broadway." would you allow me to do that? And she said, yes, go ahead. And so took it to Daniel Craig. He absolutely loved it and said, I was just talking to Hugh Jackman the other day, and he was talking about wanting to do something on Broadway, and this would be perfect for the two of us. You want to let us do it? And so my friend said, go ahead.
Okay,
And that was called The Steady Rain, and it ran for a limited run, sold out every night, and we all made a nice little chunk of money from it.
I saw it. I saw that play.
And that's, I mean, if I had a two-character play, I'd be thinking in terms of what movie person could I attract for this to do it in a limited run.
Okay.
Then how would you get it in front of those people would be
Um,
a follow-up
You,
question.
you start looking through the people that you know and who they know. I mean, it's 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, as it were.
Yeah.
I had a person I was talking, a playwright I was talking to, and I said, you should see if you've got some, you're an actor and you do film, and so you must have worked with some people that you like and might be interested in being involved in the show. And she said, no, not really. And I said, well, you were in Sister Act. Do you know anybody from Sister Act? And she said, well, I know Whoopi Goldberg really well, but she's my friend. I couldn't ask her for anything. And I said, yes, you can.
Did she ask her?
No. Mm-mm.
Wow. There must be something that she's not telling you. You know Michael Riggs, right? From Adelaide, Australia?
Do I?
Yeah,
Oh, I've probably through True.
through True. Esther, the Queen, the musical?
Okay.
No?
Nope.
You have to get your pitch down, Michael.
Good morning, Patrick. Sorry, I'm on
Oh.
my iPad because my computer's not playing up, so I had trouble logging in today. So I
Oh.
apologize for being late.
Your face is familiar. I think I have met you through at a True thing.
Yeah, I've heard you speak about the falling season a few times and rhymes over beats and things like that.
Mhm.
I'm a little unshaved and disheveled, so
Oh.
you probably see me disheveled and unshaven in the past.
Mm.
Yeah, so if I'm permitted to do my pitch, so I'm the writer of Esther the Queen, so 2-act Broadway opera, and it sort of tells the story of an orphan girl, a refugee who becomes the queen of ancient Persia. Essentially, some people have described it as, or the music at least, anywhere from big ballads, a bit of hip hop actually, a few pieces, but I'm not a hip hop artist myself. But any sort of advice is always welcomed, and a little bit of musical theatre. I've been working on it for a few years with Kate since 2020, and I'm sort of really pleased with the shape that it's in compared to where it was in. And actually, only last night I was actually looking at how many pieces were in back in 2020, and those pieces are about, there's about an hour which was in, which is now not in. So I made more drastic cuts than I ever thought I would ever, and I'm really glad where where it is actually sitting in. And even my harshest critic, which is my wife, even likes some of the stuff and sings some of the songs, but I never mentioned that at the time because it ruins the moment. So I've got a website, estherthequeenmusical.com. I must update that because some of the songs which are in that are actually not in it anymore, but you get the feel of the style of the music, at least. Someone asked me some years ago, how would I describe my music? And I sort of had to think about it. And I said, it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Some people have described Esther as being a bit of Phantom, maybe a bit of Les Mis, a bit of Disney. And then I thought, well, actually, it's Michael Riggs. And the guy who was a music producer from England said, I'm glad you said that. So it's Michael Riggs, whatever Michael Riggs is, orchestrated, pop, bit of hip hop, something that moves. I like to move people with my music, and obviously lyrics as well. So it's a big story. It's very popular in the church world, you could say, and the Jewish world, as a well-known story, especially for Purim, which happens each year. But it's an incredible story, which is why I was attracted to it.
This is Esther from the Book of Esther?
That's correct. That's correct. Yeah. So what Kate has helped me do is, I'll use one of her words, excavate the plot, which I really liked, that sort of way of thinking. Reading between the lines, seeing what's not written as well. And obviously use my imagination. I've done lots of research into it to try to get a historical context of things and how things may have panned out and not. Obviously, with the musical, it's they didn't sing back then in musical theatre, so there is a bent or a take on the story, which I really like. Yeah.
How I don't know anything about, except from what people have said about theater in Australia. So I don't know. I mean, if you're looking to come, I mean, going to London seems to be a reasonable step for something from Australia, I would think. And they're probably more friendly towards Australian imports than they are American imports at the moment.
Yes, I don't know. We have the same tariffs as the US might have.
Really?
So is there a distinction between commercial and not-for-profit theater in Australia?
We have essentially amateur theatre in Adelaide. Is the big theatre companies or performance spaces are Sydney, Melbourne, then Brisbane, in that order. So on the East Coast, and I'm on the central south coast, about an hour's flight from Melbourne. I've reached out to through emails and conversations with some people here in Adelaide, but the amateur theatre groups like their well-known productions, because they've obviously got a box office critical amount that they like to get to rake back in. I've got a lot of interest. I've got interest from people, individuals, but not so much from any companies as such at this stage. Although I am hoping to do a reading this year. I want to sort of get a goal out there that I can, is achievable without chewing too much, and also to keep it moving forward. So I'm planning on that, speaking with people who can probably technically help with that, because that takes more than just one person to achieve anything like that, and I think it'd be really useful. But everyone who's heard the pitch or the music from it has been very complimentary and wants to hear more. That's the general.
It's a big show.
Yeah.
So it runs contrary to the trend of
What-
smaller shows, smaller musicals, but it's a big show with a big sound.
What is the cast size?
You're looking at a minimum of 18.
Okay.
It also, at the moment, I mean, I can write it out, in or out, but it has 2 kids as well. So
Okay.
I know with that, you then need 4 kids for covering and all like that.
And in America, you need a child wrangler and a tutor. Do you need the same thing in Australia?
I would imagine so. In the musicals that I actually chaperoned a young boy in the musical The Boy from Oz. That was just an amateur production, and so that was just a volunteer. But yeah, they had to have chaperones even at amateur theatre.
How old are the children?
They are stage age would be around 10, 11.
Okay. So it wouldn't be like a young teenager that you could get a a 21-year-old who looked really young.
Well, my daughter has been told that she looks like she's 14 or 15, so she technically could. But yes, if you'd have to be, child size.
I'm trying to think of how to
Yeah, obviously, sure.
save a few dollars on
Yeah,
salaries. That's the first thing a producer thinks of, is how can I save money? How can I
Yeah.
not cut corners artistically, but cut corners financially? I had
sure.
one person who had a play where the Cossacks clubbed a child and killed them. And I said, couldn't this be a person who looks really young? And the playwright said, absolutely not. Got to be a
Or
real child.
You
And
could do puppets, like Alan's got a puppet of a dog. You could do like the Japanese
Yeah.
flamenco, whatever, with puppets.
Anyway, another thing to think about is I did produced a play that's still being done. It's called The Soap Myth. And in America, there was a big controversy around whether or not Jewish museums should talk about Jewish inmates being made into soap to be. Anyway, and the museums were saying we don't have the sufficient documentary evidence to make that claim. And there's so many anti-Semites running around that if we do something like this, they're going to cause us problems. And the play centers around the character who was in a camp and had witnessed that. But his testimony wasn't sufficient for the museum, even though he bugged them relentlessly. And so the playwright met him and heard his story and created a play around it. And I did it initially, and then he talked Ed Asner into playing the character. And so it had a really respectable run, and it's still being done at Jewish community centers and things like that. Is there something that you could do that way? Find a Jewish community center that would be interested in it.
I've actually emailed only yesterday a Jewish school. There's nothing in Adelaide I actually gone and try to get in contact with the Jewish community here in Adelaide. I actually eventually spoke to someone and they didn't call me back. Like, I actually spoke to them, and so I've actually there's Melbourne, Sydney are the Jewish communities in Australia. They're the biggest Jewish community. So I just wanted to at least touch base with this school. So R to 12 school, from reception to the end of high school, and just to sort of let them know, hey, I'm doing this, and I'm always happy to chat. I think making connections first is really important. As it turns out, my wife is Jewish, and I've got Jewish heritage in me, but I wouldn't say I'm culturally Jewish as such, or have those connections. At least I know people in London and England, being family, of course.
Listening to you, Michael, you were the artistic director of the Adelaide Ballet Company.
Yeah.
Right? So much of your vision is influenced by your time spent dancing in London, and it's a big vision, ballets and operas almost. And that's your creative expertise as well. I was wondering, could you perhaps interest to a ballet company or an opera? Because operas are looking for new work instead of repeating the same old canon.
Yeah, you would be surprised. I have tried to get in contact with the State Opera here in Adelaide a few times, not just once, but I think at least 3 times, and it's always been unanswered. And there's a new artistic director now, and even I was advised to try the State Theatre Company, And I got told that, you know, there's a new person who's very progressive and all like that. And at the moment,
Use your
any of
connection
my-
with Neil Gooding. Use your connection with Neil Gooding to try to get into Sydney.
yeah, I did apply with he's associated with the Hayes Theatre in Sydney. If he's got time, I know he used to be there. So when I went and presented, first of all with Neil and 3 other panelists, past of I can't remember the what it was called, first look or something like that. That was 2017, I think. So he was one of I did 2 songs from Esther, and he actually, and another male panelist actually was very complimentary. And then they got into the actual nitty-gritty feedback, which was really great. But I did actually apply to the Hayes Theatre for some assistance. They have a program in regard to either getting some other feedback or either getting something on, you know, even if it's in a draft version. And I didn't hear anything. It was quite an extensive application to do, but you know, that was I didn't hear anything from there. I do have some people in UK who are definitely interested, performers. I sort of connected with a composer who's up and coming, who has a connection with a West End performer, a big West End performer. I can't remember her name, but I met up with him. We meet up in Facebook and Zoomland regularly. But I do have connections, and I do have, you know, some connections now, you know, because I haven't been dancing in London for some time, but definitely London, I have, you know, I guess working connections. Obviously in New York and America, I've got Create Theatre people and Zoomland here. But I guess my working reputation is London.
The thing that I just thought of is, since you were artistic director, you had to have donors and patrons and things like that. Have you thought
No,
about?
so I run it's a youth company.
Oh.
So we've had Australian ballet performers perform with us in the past as well. So I have connections with the Australian Ballet. I would say that Esther though it has dance and movement in it, I wouldn't describe it as a ballet as such. Definitely more musical theatre. LA is a small town compared to Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, obviously London, New York. So we've got about 1 million people, and we don't get the big musicals, although we are getting Cats. Cats is coming, but you know, DM Hansen didn't come to Adelaide. There's all sort of we did have Sister Act, but people I saw just recently, but we have very short runs.
So I think that you should do a concert version, and you can do it in New York. So like what we're doing at Green Room, I think that might help you, because your music is a very strong point.
Yeah, I have thought about doing that. Either, you know, something, instead of doing Act 1 and Act 2, you do Part 1 and Part 2, which is quite a wicked thing. You know, and you know, I have thought about maybe if I do Act 1, you know, first, and then do a concert a few weeks or a month later for Act 2, so there's a bit of a carrot for people to come back.
We can talk about that. We can talk about that.
Sure. So, but they're just some ideas. But definitely, like people.
Everybody else in on the conversation too, though.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So,
We'll make a date, Kate.
yes, yes, and I want Alan to speak up, and David. They haven't spoken much, but then Pat, I want you to share with what we're doing about the falling season at Green Room.
Okay.
So Alan, did you have a question for Pat?
I don't really, because this is a reading that you're covering, and so No, I think I'm pretty good, unless you can recommend some people to help with marketing the reading and take, because I'm unclear if you're doing that for the New Works Festival or
So we
not.
are, I had one of my students who's done social media for Urban Stages, but he just got a job paying more than I would. So then he said that there was another student, but now that student also can't do it because of whatever. So now
Right.
to square one looking for someone else to do it. So
Okay,
that's where I stand.
got it. Thank you. So I guess should we be doing it through you then, or should we try to outsource it ourselves?
See,
I
the
don't know.
thing is, if you outsource it, you're gonna give a lot of money over to people who aren't gonna do a lot of work.
Okay.
So when I've done this in the past, I would give like $5,000 to somebody who ended up writing 2 press releases and did not hustle to try to get anyone in. I can do
Wow.
that for you, and I'm already doing that for you. know.
Okay.
So unless you could have an intern specifically for your show, like a college, a young person,
Right, of course. Yeah.
then that would be worth your while. You trying to hire somebody, they're gonna do the minimal because it's a reading. And
Right.
I think you'd be better served by getting a young person who's excited about theater and excited about your work, especially if you have two, you could
Okay.
make it work for you.
Okay. Well, I'll cool my jets on that then, because that was sort of I think I may have found a stage manager, so that
Ask
was
the stage manager if she
the
knows
last
somebody
piece.
who'll do it. Yeah.
Yeah, she might be able to. So that was the last piece, I think, for the reading. So
Well, that's
um,
where I am too. And I'm trying to craft everyone's images so that we can get the invites out and for tomorrow's check-in. I wanted to have that done with
oh
everybody.
great. Oh great. What time is that tomorrow again? Sorry,
8 o'clock Eastern.
okay, thank you. Okay.
Thank
Great.
you for adding the Eastern.
Right. Where are you, Pat, by the way?
Glen Park.
Oh, I see. Okay. A good way to get introduced would be Theater Bay Area's having a soiree. I don't know if you've gotten the invite.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
I belong to that. And the other thing that I like, although I lost connection with them, is Playground. I used to go to see the Playground Monday night reading things all the time when I would be out here on because I used to live here in the spring and the fall, or live in New York in the spring and fall, and here in the winter and summer.
Sure.
Um,
Makes sense.
and now I'm in San Francisco full time. But
Right.
I like Playground a lot.
Oh,
They're a
good.
really good company,
Oh, good. Yeah, I don't do
and they do
theater, but
interesting.
so it's not my bailiwick, but yeah, that people like them. Yeah, which is great. But thank you. I don't really have anything specific, but thanks for asking, Kate. I think that was the biggest pressing thing on my agenda. Then I'll see you tomorrow at
So
5.
I am looking for a young person too. So if I find one, I'll shoot them your way as well.
Great,
So
thank you.
what we're gonna cover is all 8 shows,
Right, of course.
right?
Right.
But if you want to do a deeper dive, then yes, you should hire somebody yourself.
Got it. Yeah, thank you.
Kim has a whole like portfolio of like 10 different plays that he's getting licensed and
Mhm.
he's getting produced all over the place. So I don't know if you have any contacts out near San Francisco so that he could see one of your works, or actually you can see Maeve's Camellia, which has been videoed.
Yeah.
And you can also see, was it Tennessee Wet Rub that
Yeah.
was recorded?
Yeah.
Why didn't you send him the links so he can look at your work?
Okay.
Okay. My email is patrick.robad@gmail.com. So you can send it to that.
Patrick say it again, please.
ROB for Rhymes Over Beats. AD
Uh,
for artistic director gmail.com at gmail.com.
I just say Patrick Robad because you're a badass.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and I was born in St. Paul, and so I
Okay.
spent my early years in St. Paul.
Yeah,
And,
that's where I first started writing plays.
and it was fun when we did a tour of the Exonerated because I could go back. One of the things was done in Minneapolis. One of the productions of the On the Road was done in Minneapolis, so I got to go with it and reconnect with a lot of cousins and aunts and uncles and things like that.
Was that at the Guthrie?
No, it was at one of the Clear Channel theaters. I forget what it was at the moment.
Oh,
The name of
okay.
it, but it's a Broadway rental house that has touring New York
Oh.
shows come through it.
Okay, okay. Yeah, there is a place, I think it's called the Ordway in St. Paul
Mhm.
that does Broadway shows as well. But yeah,
But it was something like that. It wasn't the Ordway, but it was something like
Yeah.
that. And
it's
it was
it's a
done-
great theater town with playwright centers there,
Yes.
and everything. So yeah, it's a great theater place.
On our
Um,
board is James Rocco, Kim. He's the former artistic director of the Ordway.
James Rocco.
Yeah. He's on the Create Theater board.
Okay.
But he's not the artistic director anymore. It's a
No.
former artistic director.
Yeah.
Okay, so Kate,
Anyway.
did you want me to talk about what we're doing with the fall?
Yeah.
season?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. The first thing I think about is how I'm going to get the money to do a production. And pitching a hip hop musical to people is a uphill challenge because theater people tend to not be interested in hip hop all that much. And hip hop people aren't interested in theater. And so we are having a challenge when it comes to raising money. One of the things that Kate came up with that I think is a brilliant idea is that we're going to do a concert of some of the songs at the Green Room 42 in July, and they have a streaming service and they'll sell tickets because the writer of the musical is well known in the hip hop world and has a few 100,000 followers on Instagram and Facebook, and a huge fan base in Europe and London, in England. We think that we can sell tickets through to his European fan base of this, and make a few dollars there, at least enough to start us rolling. Because we want our initial production to be on the West End, and we want it to be in order to get that ball rolling of setting up a British company, UK company, and drafting documents and getting legal and general management and all of that stuff is going to cost us around $30,000. So hopefully we'll make enough on this that we'll be able to create the infrastructure for a London production. And Kate is working with the writer to select the songs and assemble a cast. And I'm trying to get people's contracts so where instead of saying we'll give you the $1,000 that you normally get, we'll pay you treble your normal rate, but it will come from ticket sales. So we'll get the people's commitment to work for us upfront, for free upfront, and hopefully a bigger back end.
So that's why I was thinking the same thing for you, Michael. Because your music is so strong. And even if you were to share the stage, say, with another musical, it still would be worth your while, I think. So we'll talk about that.
If creating an album of songs shouldn't be as expensive as it is, but that's having a album of the songs from the show is another great way of marketing stuff, because you could sell the album or have it on Spotify or whatever, and you could
Well,
make
that's,
some
you
you can make some
you're not
money
gonna make
from
a lot of money there either,
Yeah.
but use it for promotion.
Got plenty of songs to choose from anyway with that. So that's
Yes, you do. And they're good songs. So David also had a question. David had Retraction, that won some awards in 2022 when we did it at Theater Row. We did a whole production that year of, what was it? Of seven new musicals and one new play, and his was the only play. And it's received some really good feedback from people. It's very tense, a tense drama. And so now David wants to talk about having an off-Broadway run. So off-Broadway versus, I told him it might be more economical to think about having a showcase, and you do the maximum number of presentations on a showcase code. And you do it at a 99-seat house that doubles, like Theater Row, or actually I was thinking of Art New York. And so you have it at a venue that also is an off-Broadway theater. The public doesn't know the difference. So that way you can get something that kind of looks like off-Broadway, but it's not a full off-Broadway run, and you're not paying the off-Broadway contracts, but you're getting it exposed. What do you think about that?
I think that I'm probably alone in this. I think that the showcase code was initially designed by Equity to promote their members, not to promote plays.
Yes.
You don't get at a showcase, you don't get producers, I don't think, and you don't get reviews.
You don't get reviews.
Yeah.
You can work and get producers in the front door, because at least it's a production.
I had one friend who's an actor. The only time I've done a showcase, and she's a really good actor, and when she would go to an audition, people would listen to her and say, "Thank you very much, but you're not what we're looking for." And then she'd go, "Okay," and they would say, "But we saw you in this comedy film, and you were absolutely brilliant in that. But this is a serious play." And so what she decided to do and I helped a little bit on it, was Anna Christie. She cast herself in Anna Christie, and we did a showcase of that, because she wanted to show, and basically she just invited casting directors and people like that, but she wanted.
So what are you saying, that it's not really a good idea, or what?
I don't know if it helps any more than actors will invite people to come see them so they can get an agent. I don't see it moving along the production.
So I tried my collaborative producing idea, and Martin wrote up a draft of a budget.
Mhm.
And for three, it took three. It was about $300,000 for a 16-week total run. But of course, it would be a per performance contract, not an off-Broadway performance contract. So we saved money there. And rotating, of course, sharing the venue, sharing the designers and things like that. So that's how we got an off-Broadway run for $300,000. Martin thought it was a good idea. $300,000 is still a good chunk.
Yeah,
So
and
what I-
if you're doing 3 shows, you split it between all
No,
3
no,
shows?
no. Yeah,
Oh.
the entire capitalization was like 900,000.
Oh, okay, so it's 300,000 apiece.
Right.
Okay.
Right, and that's what it is, because when one show pulled out, I went to Art New York because the other one was at another venue. I don't want to say a lot. But then even for 2 at a reduced cost, then it went up to 400,000 with 2.
But if you have access to that capital, you could go to a theater in, say, Minneapolis and say, if you're looking for a show for your next season for a not-for-profit, I have 300,000 and get a longer run and all of the publicity of the theater company.
Oh, that's
And I'm,
brilliant.
and I'm going to enhance any production that you do up to 300,000. And a theater company that has their budget being able to go really big on a particular show would appeal to them. And you have a longer run than what you get a showcase in New York and actually get some money back if you did some sort of splitting the box office deal with the theater.
So that's a different way to think about it, David.
I mean, one of my biases is that I don't like showcases, and that could be a personal dislike more than anything else. Because anytime I've done something on that level, I've always just done it out of my own pocket, so I didn't have to go out and raise money for it.
You know, I got that idea from Jeremy Handelman. He was always doing showcases. And then he would even put a little extra money to go like to 23 performances. And people don't even know it's a showcase. They think it's an off-Broadway run.
Okay, we've also discussed possibly just doing it non-union, so not like an official equity showcase, right? And just
Yeah,
with non-union actors.
yeah.
We're
Definitely.
discussing several options, but
It's equity actors don't give you anything more than the possibility of efficiency, goodness, whatever. I mean, just because they're union doesn't make them a good actor, but it increases the chances that they'll be a good actor.
Yeah.
Because it means somebody has already hired them and thought they were good. That's how they got into the union.
yeah.
Well, in the pandemic, they let anybody in, so kind of diluted that. But
And if I'm being a pure producer, I'm looking for people who aren't in unions to do that. But as just a general personal opinion, I totally think that there should be unions because otherwise actors will be mistreated. If you give producers the ability to not use union labor, you'll get abuses.
well, it depends on the producer. I won't do that.
Well, I don't do that either, but yes. But if you make it possible, you'll get people who aren't as nice as we are.
Aren't you lucky you're with us, David? I hope that gave you something else to think about, David.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I wish we had the same sort of situation that is in England, where there's a state giving money to theater companies to do things.
If only.
And having to get people. because there'd be a lot more theater. But I also advise people not to be New York focused, because you can do things in your own backyard and hopefully make money doing it. I just went blank on the playwright's name, but he has never had a play done in New York.
Right.
But he's made a ton of money by just doing regional theaters.
What's his name, Kim? I know you're thinking of, I know you know it.
Was it Dorff, Jonathan Dorff?
No,
No,
Are you thinking of Phil? Are you thinking of
Um,
Phil Olson?
no.
pardon? There,
No,
he did
No.
he did
He
John
wrote
Gr-
Almost
John-
Maine.
Sean. Oh, almost Maine. How about Sean Grennan?
No.
He's got stuff popping up all over the place.
Who
Not
wrote
on.
Almost Maine? Because that made more money without ever hitting Broadway or off Broadway.
Yeah,
Mhm.
almost Maine.
More
I
money
used to
there.
see. I used to see like the survey, like at the end of the year,
Yeah.
like, what's the most produced plays, like nonprofit across the country. And,
John
like for several
Cariani.
years, almost Maine was like number one. Kate, did you remember that? Like for several years, almost
Yeah.
Maine. Like every year, it was like the number one.
And we have people in our company that write for an education market, an educational market, and they do quite well.
Okay, Awaken Breathing, because it's about a female college basketball player. For all the whole time you've helped me develop it, and then we got a good response at the reading festival. You said that you're really excited and confident that colleges and university programs will
And high schools.
in high schools. I'll have to change. I'll have to edit a few things because there's some adult content in there. But
Two
yeah, like
versions. You do two.
yeah, all right,
versions.
two versions, high school and like the regular version. Yeah.
Correct.
and thinking out of the box, if it's about a female basketball player, I would reach out to people at the WNBA.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's really good.
Hey, didn't you once say that the premiere should be staged in a gym and not in a theater?
Yeah, quite specific.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought of that because San Francisco has a new women's basketball team.
Yeah, they awarded the franchise to that's right.
And I mean that one of the things that we're trying to do for the following season is not just reach out to rich rappers, but also reach out to sports people. I was talking to the guy who's the general counsel for the Golden State Warriors to see if he's interested, and he also runs their entertainment section. But we're not community focused enough for him. He couldn't justify. He said he couldn't justify it to his boss. But in reaching out to individual athletes, I mean, if you
Mm-hmm.
went to high school and knew somebody who became a famous football, baseball, whatever player who's now making millions of dollars a year, and you still have a connection with them, that's a person that I would reach out to. But I'm too old to have gone to high school with anybody who's not still an active player.
Patrick, was it you or was it Kate? Patrick, was it you or Kate? Maybe it was somebody else that said there are some very wealthy people out there that just love, like they don't write, they don't act, but they just love theater and they love musicals and they love plays. They're like, how can I get involved? Like I love theater so much, and they're wealthy. And sometimes and this can sound silly. Patrick, was it you that said this or Kate? Was it somebody else? Like they don't know. They're like, hey, like, do you want to invest? Like, yeah, how do I invest? Or like you write a check. Like it's more complicated, obviously, but
That's why I went to North Carolina, and I think I have a bunch of people who might be coming up to the Green Room 42, just because it's fun. It's something
When
fun.
I did the Exonerated, I had been in healthcare and I knew this guy and he had his own company, and so I just on an off chance said, "Are you interested in investing?" And he said yes. And so at that point, we didn't know how successful the Exonerated would be. So at the opening night party, I thanked him for putting his money in, and I said, we hoped we could get a return on it, but I couldn't guarantee anything. And he said, I lost more money than I invested in your show because the market was down this week. and I'm having drinks with Richard Dreyfuss. I don't care about that.
Yeah, and there are like there are, even if they're not like the executive producers, there are like wealthy people out there that, Kate, you had said this one time, right? Like I think you had said something like people just want to say like, yeah, like my show got nominated for a Tony, you know,
Yes.
like when they're at fancy parties, like, oh, by the way, other thing about it too, you know, I'm a producer too on Broadway. So there are wealthy people out there that just want to be able to say like, yeah, my show's on Broadway, my show got nominated.
All the time. All the time.
And there are mega law firms, you know, the senior partners, the managing partners and stuff like that. You
He's a
never,
lawyer.
I know, you never, I'm gonna try and figure out a way of reaching out to people like that, because a lot of what we do is political. And a
Mhm.
lot of large law firms are political or do a lot of
Well,
political work.
I will tell you, I was sent a pitch deck for a show that's on Broadway right now, and I showed it to my parents and my brother, who are very wealthy, and they never got back to me. So maybe I need to work on my finessing, Kate.
Your family never got back to you?
No, I mean like you know, I talked with them. I sent them the pitch deck. I talked about it with them, and I don't want to say they never got back to me, but like, you know, I didn't know what else. Well, Kate, that's what I just said. Like, how else do I finesse my family, my wealthy siblings, you know, and parents, you know. But anyway,
Persistence.
Yeah.
They won't do it. Maybe they're just saving their money for your show. So you gotta hit them up for the
That's
off
it.
Broadway.
But
All
yeah,
right. All righty. So I don't wanna. You guys have any other questions for Pat?
Pat, one thing I was just gonna throw out, because of your hip hop connection is, the Magic Theater now with Sean San Jose might be a really good place for you to connect.
Thank you, yes,
I'm happy to do an introduction.
okay.
He doesn't answer my email, so I have no idea. It's a common thread.
Yeah, I mean, that, I try and respond back to everybody who emails me, but because I'm in the same boat, because I'm pitching to people too.
Yeah, but
And-
other people don't. They just don't. Anyway, I'm happy to do that. If you want to send me an email, I'm asvet@me.com, asvet@me.com,
Okay,
and I'll link you out.
okay, thank
I
you.
mean, you email him first, Alan.
Email Sean.
No, email Pat.
Okay, I can do that. If
All
you
right,
if you
let
heard
me-
it, I didn't write it down. I was multitasking for a change.
I'm going to put it in,
Go, yes, put it in the chat.
In the chat.
Now you're gonna see Esther the Queen musical. So I want you to double click on that and it will open up in your browser so you can listen to it later, Pat.
okay,
I highlighted it for you. This
okay.
is so nice. You know, with other people, you pay how much money and you've got like all these competition. You know, here we're just hanging out, just kind of like really having a conversation. I love this. I hope you guys feel the same way.
Now,
Yeah, and feel free to, anybody who has a odd question or feel free to email me.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
Patrick.
thank you.